Hey party people, and welcome back to MVM. This one right here, y'all, it's big. It's real big. This is Kingdoms Forlorn by Into the Unknown Games. It's a 1 to 4 player solo operative game. That's what they call it, solo operative game. It's set in a dark fantasy world. This is going to be in the vein of Kingdom Death Monster and, like their game previously, Aeons Trespass, which is coming to Kickstarter backers this year at some point. This game shares one piece of DNA from that game where it's going to have an escalation system, but there's a lot of things going on in this game that sets it apart. And it mainly starts with the story of your characters. In this game, you're going to be playing in a world. Now, the one they gave us is Principality of Stone. This is their own storybook, and it's got a whole bunch of little sections in it that you're going to be rolling based on different adventures that are going on the board as you're asked. But every character has its own book. So every single character in the game, I have 4 characters right now, they have their own story for that specific level. So think this character, Principality Stone, this character in a different book, and that would have a different book for this as well. So this character would have, let's say, 10 to 12 chapter books to match up with what's going on in those 10 to 12 chapters, something like that. I'm assuming, I don't necessarily know 100% for sure, but that's how it's going to go. Now, why is that book important? Well, that book's going to tell you their journey. When I said solo operative, what that means is each character has its own journey that's going to be going on while it's fighting alongside its own crew. You see, in this game, you're going to be delving on a kind of a top world, unveiling the map through cards and traveling around and gathering clues. And then those clues are going to be used to unlock specific things that are going on in that book. And you're going to have an overall goal that you need to have, but you can do partial goals and kind of advance your story as you move along. There's another part of the game that's going to be called the Clash. And in this, what they've given us, there's a mob clash where you're fighting multiple enemies, and then you have your boss clash, which is going to be against the big old egg knight right here. It literally has an egg with armor on it, by the way. It's interesting, right? Get that armor off. Tink. You know what I'm saying? All right. Anyway, so taking a look at your characters real quick. Your characters are going to have their own abilities, of course. They're also going to have this thing, and this is very specific to you and your character, and something that sets a lot of these games apart. It has what's called a peril arc and then a heroic arc, red and blue. The peril arc is going to have to do with your vigor going down, your health going down. And as you go down deeper and deeper, I'll repeat myself on this one, deeper and deeper, you're going to have this limit, and it will change what type of card you draw from taking on attacks. And what this means is that as you get attacked, you're going to escalate and get more riled up and angry and things like that. But bad things can happen, good things can happen. And then you have your heroic arc, where when you're fighting and you're taking out people, and you're getting stronger and more confident, you are doing cool stuff that will help you in the cooperative aspect of the game, adding tokens to this knight pool that will help you and then also help your fellow fighters to kind of make things easier to hit, also react, doing different things like that. But that's basically what's going to go on here. Adventuring, delve, and then you have your attack. So then other things that happen here, you have your own deck. This actual deck of cards are going to be cards that you can play to kind of help you out with rolls and stuff like that. There's actually a delve version of your cards, and then there's a clash version of your cards. And as you play them, some will be discarded, some will go in a delayed spot, and then eventually they will slide to the sink spot and then back into your hand. You have your own specific equipment, and of course that equipment's going to have specific stats and things that you do individually, but you want to be paying attention to that and the combination of your actual innate abilities that are on here. One, for example, I just want to give you an idea, is like this guy here, Sir Scunch, has a monkey, and the monkey goes out there and it reveals different things. But there's actually specific cards to you that are in those decks and in different adventure decks that come up that actually highlight you and your skill. So it's really interesting how that works out. But like I said, generally, you're going to be paying attention to your stat checks and things like that. And you also can change up your combinations of heroic and peril cards. So there's even a lot more choice than the generic ones that they have on here. So it's just kind of a first timer. I kind of stuck with these, but you can definitely nitpick and put together the kind of character you want, the kind of aggression you want. So what does this look like First of all, in the delve half. As you can see, I have a partial map here. What you're going to be doing is going through this exploration deck. So the first thing you're going to do is travel. You'll be traveling from one card to the next. And as you travel to the card, you'll unveil other cards. There are some that are small, medium, large, and extra large. You're going to be traveling from small to large, medium to large, that kind of thing, by traveling north, south, east, or west. And on each one of those sides, there's icons. There's threat, and then there's also going to be different chips, these clues right here. And you remember I was saying before, their own story? That's where these clues will come into place. So as I leave a card, it will tell me what type of card I need to put out next to it. Now, I'm just blindly reaching all the way out there because this is a beast on the table here. It's going to go like this. Let's say it goes right there. And then I would move my characters over that. As you can see, they're kind of combined. That acrylic standee is a combined of all of you. I don't know if this final game is going to have acrylic standees, but this is really nice to have this in this demo. But what we're going to do is we're going to move across there, and when we move, it's going to tell us what clues that we get. So let's say we got blue. What we would do is we would give the characters that need blue, but if everybody needed blue, then we all get blue, okay? And then what we will do is as soon as something activates that matches the requirements that we need, we will go into our book, read our paragraph, and progress the story, or make choices and find a location that they ask us to find, and that kind of stuff. It's, like I said, solo operative, your journey. You're going to be reading things about you and finding out what you're doing in the town as we go along. I kind of think of like a top adventure like Zelda, where you're walking through, and I just can't think of a team fight, or like Final Fantasy, where you're kind of walking around and you're finding out your own stuff, and maybe you have your own quests. So when it's your turn, you're going to be going looking for things for you. So you may be trying to help everybody out, but you may kind of be pushing towards the spots that have your yellow icons, because that's where things are going to, kind of unveil more about you. And you have to do either partial of what you need to do, or you can do the whole kind of in-game goal. But once you take your turn and move, you're going to go to the exploration deck, and now it's going to tell you what's going to happen to you. Don't worry, most of them are bad, okay? But most of them are going to tell you things like maybe set this card out, and you got to put little icons or pieces around it, and it'll say, hey, if you move this way, move the threat up, or gain a curse. And even if your threat is high enough, and I haven't talked about threat yet, you will have an additional thing happen to you. So I want to talk about that real quick. This threat is one of the ways you can lose. There's threat and there's curse. Those will move up, and as they move up, it's kind of an escalation as well with the system. And as you get to a certain number, all of a sudden things will get maybe worse, maybe better, but mostly worse, okay? So it will tell you what to do based on what's in those cards. Now, each one of your characters has their own card in there. You shuffle them in there at the beginning, and what it'll tell you is go on a king's adventure. So what you'll do is you'll go in this main book, and you will roll 2d10s, and it will tell you, hey, after you roll this, maybe you go to, let's say, 87. So then you go to the 87 here, and you read what's in between those specific numbers. So it has a number range, 85 to 88. And then you actually have choices. Think like a Ryan Lockett game, where you have these different choices that you can make for your party based on that adventure. But it'll give, like Kara, it'll give Kara a bonus because it's her card. There's even specific setup things, like this Fleischritter. He has a specific card he puts in the second half of the deck. So there's all kinds of things that are going on here. You will have an opportunity to play cards to kind of affect different things as well. Keep your threat down, keep the curse down, stuff like that. But now, once you get through the entire deck, doing this adventure, unveiling cards, trying to deal with different events that happen, doing all that stuff, now you will move over to the clash. And in this demo, there is the mob clash, and then there is the big boss clash, once again, with a little ignite. Okay, doesn't crack, by the way, sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the mob part of this game. So now our cards are going to flip over. Remember I was saying before that we have a clash version of our cards, and then we have this beautiful purple side of these cards. Good color choice, by the way. All right, so what happens in this part? The first part is going to be the enemy phase. The enemies are going to get a first chance to attack you. Now in this mob situation, how do I know what's going on with them? I actually have this gigantic stat card that's going to tell me exactly what they do, what level they are, and kind of like what are their abilities, like what happens at a specific level, because certain attacks will only be at certain levels. But it's also going to tell me what to set up for my deck. I have an AI deck, and as you can see for the mob, I have 8 characters out here. There are 8 body part cards out there. Now this will be different than the boss, because the boss will have their own body part deck, and that's it. They don't need 8 cards here. They don't need 8 cards to represent them. So what will happen is they will activate. First of all, one of them will activate, and let's just say the one activates right here, and then he will move towards me. It tells me how much their movement is. It tells me all kinds of stuff about them. I need to defeat 5 of them in order to win this thing. So they would move forward, and then they would attack me. So what happens is I don't need to know anything but what's on here. So it'll say, hey, it'll tell me how far I need to go. Closest knight. It'll say closest knight in range. Let's say it was stay out of range and throw something. It would tell me that on the card. It would also tell me what I need to roll, because it doesn't mean that I have to roll for their attack. It actually tells me what I need to roll. In this case, I get to roll 3 d10s and I have to get 9s. Lord, 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 Lord. How do I get 9s? All right, looks like I'm gonna get hit 3 times. Okay, so what'll happen is I actually have opportunities to fight these things off based on re-rolls that I have on my abilities, based on things that I have in what's called a knight pool. There can be all kinds of things here, but I have an armor that'll help me out with different types of things, but that would be it. What happens if I get hit is now I have this escalation. So let's say I got hit 3 times and I went down to 4. What I would do is look at this escalation chart, and it says it's major. So then I would go to the major deck here and I would look at one of these 3, minor, major, and then and grave. And what'll happen is I'm looking at this chart to tell me what my limits are and what I need to pull, what deck I need to pull from. And this is 2. It says random card from my hand. I got disabled. Let's see, this is some other ones that are bad in here. It says refresh 1 card, so that's actually a good one, because once you escalate, there could be good things that happen because you're more enraged and you're also bleeding out at the same time. Yikes. All right? Yikes. Okay, but then you have opportunities where you may be able to respond to this stuff. So there's different ways that you can respond to it. It actually tells you how to do it, and that has to do with some of your stats, and I forgot to talk about this. You have your vigor right here, which is your health. You also have your heat, and your heat is going to be something that you can use to re-roll, and it also will be triggers for different things you see on the card, where it'll say, hey, if your heat is high enough, this is something that you can do. You have to spend it, okay? You have your passion, and your passion is going to be when you attack, which we'll talk about in a second. So you have all these stats that are going to be used on the enemy's turn and your turn, which you need to pay attention to, that'll interact with these tracks. Now, once an enemy has attacked, you're attacking, you've defended, and now you have the opportunity to maybe get in something, they have what's called an after attack, which is basically their way of kind of manipulating you. So let's say they were here, and it says gang up. What they're going to do is try to like put you where everybody's together and mobbed up on you. Okay, so now they can mob up on you, and then maybe the next enemy, because you're next to it, will attack harder. Okay, it'll have a bigger, badder attack. And that's going to be something that you have to deal with as far as your rolls go. But you even have windows of time where you can respond with, like I said, you're going to be able to respond. Sometimes it's a counterattack. Sometimes it's a roll out of the way, night roll, that has the specific stats. It's just interesting that these cards do different things on different sides, just so you know that. And that's basically an enemy's turn. I could go into so much more detail, folks. I'm trying to be as general as possible. Now, let's talk about you. Let's talk about the knights here. You have a lot of things going on in your turn, but very, very simple. Very, very simple part here is that you're going to be attacking. So I'm going to go ahead and use Kara as an example. You have an attack, and then you have movement on your turn. When you do this, you're going to choose your weapon, and it'll tell you how many you can do. She has 2 d10s, and then she also has to roll a white, and every character will have to roll a white because this may give you possibly a crit chance. So it's not like Kingdom Death Monster, where you roll and you just get a 10 and that's it. You actually have to roll. You have to roll and hope that you get a chance to get a crit off. So let's see here. All right, so I have 3s and 2s. That is not going to be 7, but maybe I take a heat and I re-roll that. Okay, like that. All right, cool. Did not work. All right. So let's just say it did. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But before I attack, I should have actually done this, is I get to escalate my passion. So I would look at my passion and it would tell me, my passion would tell me, hey, you can add a token to this night pool right here, and it's called opening. So now you'll have better chances to hit, or you have an after attack that will help with additional rolls for something else. There's like a contribution that goes into this night pool, which will get wiped out for some, but then also help others. So there's kind of a kind of back and forth to that going on there. So yeah, that's basically how you're going to do it. So you would do that, and then when you're looking at when you're attacking, if you hit the roll, hit the roll, is the body part. Now, body parts are going to be specific points on a boss, but specific points in a mob, you're just going to be attacking them, like I'm attacking the Bone Squire. And since I only got one hit through in our fictitious world that I made up there, I would roll as many dice as it says on here. So it'll give me one of these die plus another die here. So now I would roll those, and then boom. So then I would count up these swords. Okay, and I also may have a token that helps me with these little chalice things right here. As I roll those, I need to be targeting a blue number on here in a shield. This one says 2. All right, when it says reveal, all knights have -1 perception. So let's say I had something else that would help me out with this, that can turn me, and I believe it's this break one right here, that would allow me to turn this into a hit. So then it says, while the BP is revealed, this is revealed, all knights have -1 perception, so that would affect my roll and things like that. But now that I've wounded this character, it's going to tell me what it does because I hit it. And when I hit it, it's going to say, hey, this is what happens here. It may have a reaction, and then it'll tell me what happens if I got a crit as well. So there's a little bit of action to what goes on in this card, but it will get discarded. And what happens when you hit an enemy, the deck escalates. So what will happen is I will cycle a level 2 card, find one of these level 1 cards, and what I do is I would cycle it out, and then I would put a level 2 card in there. I forgot to take a card out, but that's fine. We're just going to do that. And then I would cycle a level 2 card in there like that. What happens now is it's actually for both of us. They get more riled up and excited as I take their characters out. And as they hit me and I get more bogged down, I get more angry. But I also can get more confident in a sense from my passion because I am escalating as well in 2 different parts. And that's what happens. So even when you're facing off against this big Egg Knight, the big Egg Knight's going to have its own body parts deck. You're going to be looking for its body parts, and it's going to escalate as well, levels 1, 2, and 3, until you take it out. But that's really what happens here. You're delving, adventuring. You are fighting in clashes, whether you're fighting a mob or you're fighting a boss. You're going to have enemies attacking you. You're going to try to defend. You're going to have a response, an after attack. You're going to have an opportunity to attack. You're going to be trying to raise up. You're going to be raising and escalating yourselves as you attack and get hit. The enemy will have a chance to respond, and if you hit specific body parts, maybe chop them off, maybe just hit them, you will escalate their deck, making it harder for, making them harder and tougher, and then you are getting harder and tougher, and they're going to target you as well. So you have these different components that makes for a very kind of escalating to a peak type of gameplay experience, and that is Kingdoms Forlorn in a nutshell. Hopefully that ramble gives you an idea of what's going on. I did gloss over some details, but pay attention to some of the lower thirds that happened there. If you missed it, kind of go back and find some details. But I want to give you a suggestion before I move on to my final thoughts here. There are 2 previewers that do a really good job of giving like a big overview, and you can decide if you want to watch them or not. One is from Chris of Liege of Games. He does Kickstarters every week, and he said he has a 51-minute video. 51-minute video on this game. So he's going to go through the details. And then you have Michael King, who is King of Average. He's a well-known reviewer of prototypes, and he covers the miniatures all the way to each and every token, because I didn't even touch on like the night pool like deeply. He will go through that deeply. So definitely check out his channel as well. But for me, I'm just going to tell you this game is going for something big, and the big one is Kingdom Death Monster. But to me, it's got a little Gloomhaven in it with the kind of your own motives. It's got the Kingdom Death Monster AI deck, but it does so much of its own thing that this game is so attractive on its own. The experience is so attractive on its own that it kind of puts people that maybe don't like Kingdom Death or Gloomhaven to bed. Like, it kind of says, hey, if there's certain things that seem interesting, but you want something different, this one is different, and it's just as big. If you can't tell by looking at looking at this table hog that's in front of me. But you have to decide if you want this game. I can't tell you what to do with your money. As you can tell, I'm just excited about showing this game to you. I'd like to thank Into the Unknown for sponsoring this video, and I'd like to thank you for your time. Party people, take care. You have a wonderful day. Don't forget, you can ask me questions in the comments below. I will give you every answer I possibly can, and maybe the publisher will. And with that, take care. You have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me on MVM.